And we're back with another episode of the VBFA Leadership Podcast, episode number 2. My name is Colby Scott, and I am joined by the youth pastor, Pastor Cody Dunn, and by the boss man himself, Pastor Gary Grisham.
That's right.
We're so excited to be here. First of all, if you missed the first episode, you need to pause this video right now, and you got to go back and watch it because you missed out on some great content. Yeah. I know I learned a lot. I've known Pastor Gary for 22 years, and I learned a lot. Pastor Cody's known him for a long time. We learned some stuff, so you definitely got to go back and watch it because you're going to miss out on some great content. So, but in the first episode, we talked a lot about your life growing up and not really getting into a whole lot of ministry stuff. We talked about some Maranatha stuff and how you first started out, but now we want to transition into probably one of the biggest parts of your life, and that is your ministry here at Van Buren First Assembly. So you came to First Assembly of God in 1980, and what exactly did you come here to do?
I came as youth pastor. Pastor Johnson asked me if I would be interested in coming to be youth pastor at Van Buren First.
Awesome.
Had you ever been a youth pastor before? I mean,
well, I've been a what you call a CA president, maybe.
Ooh,
what they used to call it.
Right. We're throwing it way back here.
We are Christ ambassadors.
Okay.
We had to sing that song every time we had a service.
Oh no!
Don't make fun of that song. But yes, I came to be youth pastor.
Okay, so whenever you were in high school and junior high, you were obviously going to that church in Silsbee that we talked about last episode. Did you help out in their youth group or anything like that? So you were CA president. I mean, what kind of roles was a CA president?
Well, you just handled the services for the youth.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like it wasn't an official youth pastor, but just a CA president.
Okay.
Christ ambassadors.
Very interesting.
You
weren't
back.
Voted on, were you, as president?
No.
You didn't have a runoff.
A rigged election.
Oh, you were appointed. Okay. So what was it like being a youth pastor in the 80s? We're throwing it way back right here, okay?
Well, I will tell you, the first day I arrived in Van Buren to be youth pastor, I had the privilege of meeting a Mark Jones and a Matt Jones. They were twin brothers, Matt and Mark. Yeah. And so I knew I just really got close to these two guys because as big as they were, they could protect me. So, yes, I knew that, hey, I'm going to be all right because these two can help me.
Sure.
And protect me. Especially Mark, because he really kind of, he's kind of he said he was the tougher of the two.
Okay.
Twins. But it was awesome. I think I had maybe 12 young people at the very first service.
Wow.
12. But they were probably the strongest 12 in the youth that I've ever met because they were serious about their relationship with the Lord. It was really quite interesting.
So, I mean, you and Brother Johnson both came there in 1980. The church was running a couple hundred people, I guess.
I think the first Sunday I was there, it was around 250, something like that.
So, I mean, this was really a prime moment in Van Buren. I mean, this was before we moved up top of 59 and all this kind of stuff. We're back at 17th and Baldwin.
17th and Baldwin.
That church is not that big, so squeezing 250 in there, that's a big deal. So there was a lot of excitement at the time, right?
Yes, it was, because I actually lived across the street, the fellowship hall. I lived in the apartment for the first little bit that's above the kitchen area of the church. Yes, it was scary. Because I think I've mentioned to you before, the very first night I spent the night in that building, I was excited because I had got a kitchen and a living room and a room for a bedroom. And so I went to sleep. I was so tired and excited about what was going on. And about 2 or 3 in the morning, I actually thought the world was coming to an end because I didn't realize that a train comes through there in the middle of the night, and the whole place was shaking. I thought, the Lord's brought me here to kill me. So that was my first introduction to nighttime in Van Buren, Arkansas.
That's great. That's great. I mean, you had some solid people. Like you said, you had some great people that they still go to this church this day, to this day.
Yes.
And so that's a lot of years, a lot of memories. I'm sure you could tell some pretty embarrassing stories about many of them, and we won't do that to them today or anything.
I've kept records. So.
Now you actually have kept records. Moving all your boxes out of the church has been. Me and Colby, we nearly broke our back helping you move your stuff out of your office.
And we're not done yet. So.
Right. But, I mean, you've brought into my office before. You're low-key a hoarder for sure, but you've brought into my office, like Valentine's Day things from back in the 80s of, certain guys that, just had to marry certain people. And they wound up marrying them, too.
Yes, they did.
So that's pretty cool. And then don't you still have like your first check when you came here or something like that? Your first pay stub?
Actually, I have the first check and the note that I was coming when I was at Southwestern. I was coming through the lobby, and a young man that was doing the desk there said, "There's a note for you on the board." Huh. And so I went to get the board, and it was Brother Johnson had called and said, "Please call me at this number." And I was wondering, well, he's the DCAP of Arkansas. What's he want with me? And so I called him, and he said, I'd like to meet with you, and that's what started. But yes, the guys, there was Matt and Mark, I guess, were the first two, but there was a lot of, Denise Bankston and just I can't name them because I don't want to not name them if they were so important, because they were. But a lot of the kids, we just really got close.
Sure.
And then we got busy trying to build the church.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
And going into that, I've been on staff here, 3 going on 4 years maybe, and I mean it's been nonstop busy. I mean we've been busy, and if your first few years was anything like mine, I imagine you were really busy too, right?
Yes.
You're really busy. So how do you stay so busy and keep up with all that and not get burned out? Because a lot of people struggle with getting burned out, but you've been here for 40 years, probably some of the busiest times of your life, but you're still here and you're still, just as strong and committed as ever. So what's one way that people can stay that busy and stay that committed to God, but not really get burned out?
Well, I think first of all, it's a lot of prayer and the Word. Mm-hmm. I love the Word of God. So it's, I have just the daily routine. I read the Word of God every day. I try to, every day, and I try to learn from everything that I read and pray. That's for sure. But I think it was a challenge to keep me going because I wanted to see lives change and lives not just change but strengthen to follow their ministry. And with that being said, I've got a list of people that is I think it's at 61 now, that since I've come, not because of me, but I'm just saying, but since I came in December in 1980, I've kept a record of every person from out of our church and our youth group that is in the ministry or pastoring somewhere today, missionaries, pastors' wives. Sure. And there's over 60 names that I've written down because of people and I think that's what I look back and I think, Lord, thank you for helping us to stay focused on ministry, that it changed their lives, hopefully, to the point that now they're out in their own ministries all across the state.
Well, I mean, you modeled what Jesus did, and you discipled these people. You poured yourself into them, and I know that Colby and myself both can say that we wouldn't be on staff today if it wasn't for you and your ministry into our lives, and that same thing goes for all these people that are on that list, and that's incredible to say. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that can't say that, and
that's a true legacy, because long after you retire, I mean, there's still going to be people, carrying on, hey, this is what Pastor Gary did for me, and that's an awesome thing to be able to say.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So obviously you weren't always a youth pastor. You dealt with the sometimes drama of being a youth pastor, people dating and breaking up, and I'm sure y'all TP'd some houses and some different things like that. But what you transitioned to music at some point, right? You weren't always youth pastor?
No, Well, I was youth pastor while I was doing the music.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But the thing about it is that when I was youth pastoring, I look back and I think sometimes, because I wasn't raised as the had all the great things about dating and marriage and things like that. But I learned through time. But I was very proud of those that got involved in ministry, because when I was youth pastor, then we started Super Church, on Saturday. And I think that's when a lot of those people that are in ministry today really got connected into ministry, because I think it was a changing point for our church.
Oh, I bet.
To be honest.
Well, you were like 24 years old when you came on staff, right?
Yes,
it was something like that. That's how old I was whenever I got hired. And Colby, he was a little younger than that.
I was 19.
He was 19 years old. I'm thankful for our church and the board, our pastors that have had a vision and have allowed the next generation to step up. Because, like you said, 24 years old, maybe you don't have all of it together quite yet. You don't have all the answers. I'm sure mistakes were made at times in ministry and all that kind of stuff, but you figured it out as you went, and the Lord blessed you for it too. So.
Well, it was quite interesting, because you have to remember, I was single. And I was single. So
ready to mingle.
It was great, especially when you started talking to the boys about dating and all this stuff. And, we weren't allowed to date within the group at Southwestern. And so I just mainly focused on ministry, and I said, Lord, you can work that out later on, whatever. Yeah. And so, but it was a challenge to tell them about dating, and I wasn't dating myself. But it was fun too, because there's phones ringing. But
that's okay.
Sorry, duty calls.
So you wound up meeting Sister Tammy at some point, right? Was that at camp or a revival?
Well, I just hung up on her. So if that tells you anything. But yes, that's where I first met Tammy.
Okay. That's great.
That was when I first met Tammy.
That's great.
Actually, the first time I saw her was when we went to camp. Took the kids to camp. I would not go to camp to stay, but I took the kids to youth camp, and I noticed her. So then I asked Brother Johnson who she was, and then that's what led to.
Oh yeah, we know how those things work. We know how it goes. That's awesome. So when you transitioned from youth to music, or you were doing both at the same time, I've seen your calendar before. You still have your calendars from back then, right?
Well, of course.
And so it's like a Brett Kavanaugh thing. You've literally got what you did at what time and everything. It's incredible. But on the calendars, you were doing something every single night. You have listed down, and I'm like, I don't understand. And back to Colby's question of just being so busy without burnout. I don't even see how you guys physically did it all the time. You were always doing something.
Well, I loved being busy.
Yeah.
I liked, we had the youth were always doing something.
Yeah.
We would have fifth quarters, and we would always go to the away games. We took a bus to the away games.
Okay.
We were always doing something. We'd always went out Sunday night after church. Mm-hmm. And we would spend hours taking them home.
Yeah.
So because we would say, parents will bring them home, so we would get them home. So by the time we went and had our fun, come back to church, we'd load in the vans, take them home.
Yeah.
So, but thank the Lord, I had people help me to take them home. But it was just a busy place. It was I kept them busy.
Yeah. Do you have any advice before we move on to the music side of things? Do you have any advice for potential youth pastors that might be watching or something like that on just helping teenagers or helping them navigate life, especially in 2020 now? Do you see similarities between 1980 and 2020 and kids today? Do you have any advice for ones that might be watching and trying to figure out, like, man, how do I make it happen? How do I lead these kids now?
Well, I think really the biggest thing that I tried to do was not don't misunderstand. I'm about to say, not to get into their lifestyle, but just build a relationship with them. Yeah. To let them trust that they can open up to me. Yeah. Because I've been told a lot of things, that might be heartbreaking, but it's in here. Yeah. It's not going to leave. For the whole time I've been, you dealt with some issues, and they would come and say, Brother Gary, can I talk to you? And I listen. I said, just tell me what it is. Yeah. And I never judged them. I said, but here's what the Lord can do for you. And there's things that I've been told, and not saying this, but I'm told by youth people when I was first youth pastor that I'll probably take to my grave, that nobody else will ever know. Sure. But now I see them doing things for God and living for the Lord and serving the Lord, not just in the ministry, but in their families today. So that's awesome. I think building a relationship is very important, especially before you can really get into the spiritual side of it. Yeah. Just be a friend.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Just be a friend.
Yeah.
Well, so on the music side of things, you're doing youth on Sunday nights. You guys had youth or Sunday afternoon?
Christ Ambassadors.
Christ Ambassadors, sorry.
6 o'clock on Sunday nights.
6 o'clock Sunday nights.
So y'all didn't have Wednesday night service then?
Well, we had Wednesday night service, but it wasn't youth service.
Wasn't youth service.
It was just everybody was together. Right. Okay. So you're leading. I'm guessing there was. You guys were doing hymnals, or at one point you were the choir director, right? You led the choir songs.
Well, when I first came, we were singing choruses in youth and things like that, and it eventually Pastor Johnson kind of led and said, "Hey, I want you to start leading in the services." And I didn't come to be music pastor, so. Yeah. I just fulfilled what he asked, and then that started, and here we went. So I was doing youth pastor and that at the same time. Okay. And then super church too.
Were you ever like just the music pastor, or you've always had multiple positions, right?
Yes, sir.
That's pretty
different
awesome. That definitely keeps you busy.
Yes, it did, but it was fun.
Yeah, I bet.
So you back to kind of the music stuff. You've actually wrote a couple songs, haven't you?
A few. Yes. Johnny Minnick has helped me write some, but I've wrote a lot of choruses, but a few songs. Yes.
Yeah. Me and Cody aren't necessarily, your picture perfect musicians or singers or anything.
We're good, but we don't want to show off.
Yeah, we don't really want to show off, right? So, maybe speaking to some. You just spoke to some of the youth leaders. There's a lot of people who are interested in music still, obviously. For some of those who might want to write their own songs or want to lead music, or lead a choir or a worship team, what would you say to somebody who's looking to write a song or to lead a choir or to lead a worship team in this day and age?
Well, I think you've just got to be aware of the times that you're in, and in the early '80s when I started doing the music, the choir, it was. That I kind of would listen to the styles of music. Now I remember, through all this that I was kind of thinking, we need to step up a little more than what we're doing. And I remember the very first time I ever taught the choir "Right On King Jesus." It's a black spiritual, but I tell you. Once we did, now we probably had some that probably were thinking that this is crazy.
About passed out.
About passed out, I'm sure. But then I think what happened was that the Spirit of God really, captured that service the night that we sang that song, "Right On King Jesus," and we probably sang that song 100. I don't know. I want to say 100,000, but 1,000 times at least, and it would bless people all the time. So I think I tried to go with what was happening at that time, the type of music, and I tried to transition from just and I love Southern gospel, but we had to transform a little bit to attract different kinds of people.
Sure.
Yeah. And so we've done. I remember the first time we ever did a cantata, an actual musical cantata. I was a nervous wreck, but it went pretty good. So then Pastor Johnson would say, we need to do that all the time. We need to do an Easter one and a Christmas one and things like that. So we did. And so music, I think we have to go with the times. You have to be relevant to people that you're trying to reach. you know. And I think at that time we were getting a lot of new people coming into the church that I think it was a blessing, and people were drawn by that. So I think you just have to kind of feel the times and what's going on, and be relevant. You know, you don't have to be off the wall and things like this, but you can be relevant to what's going on, because this is a new generation.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it too is probably being in tune with the Spirit, you know, and this might be something that I don't know if you even have an answer to, but you know, one thing that I've always wondered in watching you worship and lead worship in services is how in tune you are with the Holy Spirit, to know in an altar service, you know, when to switch gears and when not to switch gears, or when to stop singing or when to not stop singing, you know, for the benefit of those that are worshiping. Because worship, you know, if they stop, you know, during an altar service, or you play the wrong song, man, it instantly changes the mood. So my question would be, and I don't even know if you have an answer for it, is how do you stay so in tune and yet be so aware of the service at the same time?
Well, that's, you know, a lot of prayer too, because I pray when I was music pastor, especially for the services. I'd pray to say, Lord, what do you want us to do? What's the leading of the Spirit of what we're going to do? But you also have to be ready for a slight change of service. You know, if the service is going a whole different direction, and as people are really getting into worship, well, you don't want to get up there and sing a slow, worshipful choir song. Right. So we'd change it. You have to be in tune. And that's what, thankful for the musicians we've had across the years. That's been incredible, that they're willing to change and go a different direction at that time. You know, I think it's just important that a music pastor just be sensitive to the people, sensitive to the Spirit of what's happening, and always watch your pastor, because keep an eye on him, because the thing about it is, he may want you to go a different direction. Sure. You know, so I would watch, you know, and just kind of feel the services going on, and you know, if it's happening, you let it go. You know, and if it's not happening, then you just need to be sensitive to the Spirit to know when to stop and go a different direction.
That's awesome advice. That's golden for anybody who wants to be in a position like he's in someday. Not to, you know, keep changing the subject, but in this episode we're talking about all the different positions that you've been in, and one of the other big ones that you were part of was Super Church. Would you like to tell us about Super Church, because a lot of people might not know what Super Church even is? Would you?
Well, we had Bill Wilson was a you know, he's at Metro Assembly in New York City. He's the greatest bus ministry person in the world, and he really had an influence. We had heard about him, so we watched him and learned about him, and so Pastor Johnson thought, well, hey, let's try to do something on Sundays. Well, Sunday mornings, it really didn't kind of move as what we thought it would do, because there's a lot of, all the churches are open, and so we thought, well, this is like a struggle. So we moved. We said, well, why don't we just do like he does and do a Saturday, you know? So we moved it to Saturday, and we'd have breakfast, which was really good, because, you know, the cooks were great for breakfast.
Remember that.
I mean, come on, Vera and Lucille, well, whatever.
Chocolate gravy and all
they
that.
They always took care of us, and all the other ladies that cooked. But we came at 8 o'clock in the morning to have breakfast, and then I think we had maybe 3 routes at that time, and the 3 people that were running the route would go visit that morning and come back at noon, and then we would leave out at 1 to go pick them up to bring them back to church, and we'd have an afternoon service. Well, little did we know, I mean, we were excited about it, but little did we know that it caught fire. Wow. And really the Lord began to bless it, and we would, you know, we were having 100 kids, and at that time was awesome. We were just like excited. And so then we expanded routes, and because we had I think 2 routes in Van Buren, 3 routes in Van Buren, so we moved into Fort Smith. and we had to get another bus. So we expanded it, and over the years it just grew and grew. And we'd come in the morning, have breakfast, go visit that morning, then come back to the church, leave at 1 to go pick up the kids and bring them back we started, I think, at 2:30 in the afternoon. And so we did that for years, and it began to just explode to where I've got a picture, wish I'd had it with me, of at the church in 17th and Baldwin, where the entire sanctuary was, and then what little balcony we had, there's a picture of kids everywhere.
Huh?
Awesome. And then we did we started doing the holidays, 4th of July fireworks displays, and I think one 4th of July we had over 2,000 people there because of we actually ran 21 buses.
Wow.
With and so you think about that, with 21 buses, that's 21 bus drivers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, that's 21 people right there. Then each bus had 3 to 4 workers.
Wow.
Every bus.
That's
and
crazy.
Then the cooks that come and prepared meals, and then we served Kool-Aid. The ladies, there'd be cups and cups and cups of Kool-Aid. It's just, I look back and I think, how in the world did we do this?
For years.
But it was by the grace of Almighty God. But I tell you, I think it transformed our church to the point that we saw, because I look back, and I've even done this here lately, I know of just a few people I'll mention, but the Northside High School basketball player, Eric Burnett, is a head coach at Northside, and he's got a beautiful family, and we picked him up on a bus.
That's awesome.
And I'm proud of him. But I could go on and on and on of people that's even in the ministry today and doing the same thing somewhere else that started bus ministry. So the Lord really blessed us.
That's
in
incredible.
And I think we actually did that service, and then it even got bigger. So we had to do Saturday morning services and Sunday and Saturday afternoon services.
Wow.
So we'd have one at 10 and one at 1. And so we'd move certain routes to the morning, certain routes to the night, to the afternoon. And so it was quite interesting, but it was also really a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Saturday was y'all's kids' church day. You didn't have a kids' service on Sunday?
Yes, we had a kids' church on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
That was mainly for maybe the people that bring their kids to church on Sunday morning. And then we only ran about maybe 1 or 2 buses on Sunday morning, because there was the kids that came on Sunday morning. They would not come on Saturday, but they would come on Sunday. Yeah. So it was kind of, we just kind of double did it.
That's awesome. Actually, I'm current kids pastor, and I remember when I first started, you had all of those Bill Wilson Train Depot curriculum books.
Yes.
That's something that I've even used, even now, however many years later, and we're still using the same stuff. So that's really awesome to see that all kind of come full circle. And, I don't know, I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, it is. And, a lot of the old photos that we've shown or that we're going to show that, terrible Mickey Mouse costumes and Pac-Man and a big bear and all kinds of stuff like that. And I love seeing the similarities. Kids just love that kind of stuff. And, Colby uses all these great costumes and stuff in the same way in kids ministry today. You guys just really created a celebration, a party atmosphere for these kids to come. And didn't you guys have chickens or something? Didn't y'all buy chickens for the kids or something one year?
We went the little chickens, the little chickens.
Yeah.
We did. We gave everybody one.
Wow. That's incredible.
I don't know what happened to them once they got off the bus, but I do know that we did.
And you had ladies that would come up and just make peanut butter sandwiches or something like that, right?
They would first come to make breakfast for the workers.
Yeah.
We had a full breakfast for the workers, and then they would stay and prepare Kool-Aid for all the kids that would come. And a few years later, after we really started Super Church, we added another holiday to it. When July 4th, we did a fireworks display. I remember the first one we did, we ran every bus, and it was full. Wow. We had it at the Crawford County Speedway.
Yeah.
and they would shoot off fireworks, and that was quite interesting, trying to get everybody home at night. And the bus breaks down. Boy, you just better hurry.
Oh, I know. I remember that was
many times.
Super Church for me was my first taste of ministry. We in junior high, we got points in our junior high ministry to come and serve on Saturdays. And so to come, and I was just a helper, and most of the kids on my bus made fun of me for just being a helper. But eventually I became a bus captain, and there were just some really special memories. We'd all go home wore out on Saturdays afterwards. You're there 8 to 5 at least, and it just still blows my mind that the amount of people that were willing to come every Saturday and serve literally all day long and go home exhausted, and yet they did it for years and years and years. And I think that says a lot about you as a leader, but it says a lot about our church too, and the heart of our church to reach the community. And Jesus said it best. If you love me, feed my sheep. And you guys were doing that spiritually and physically for them. So I think that's a lot to say about that time. And there's some really special memories.
Well, the greatest thing about it was it could not be possible, like you said, without the workers.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just really tremendous to see, kids at 13 and 14 wanting to be a part of the bus ministry to go and help.
Yeah.
And then they eventually grew into bus captains, but it was very hard and very difficult. There was a lot of tough days.
Sure.
But I look back and see all the people, that list I was telling you about, people that's in the ministry today, how they used to drive a bus, or they were a bus captain, or they were something in that, and now they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's really neat.
And I mean, did you say 21 buses?
At one time, yes.
20, so I mean, you got a driver, and you said 3 to 4 workers per bus, and then cooks, all the extra help. I mean, you're talking a couple hundred volunteers each Saturday.
Every Saturday.
That's insane to think about. How? So when did Super Church start, and what year did you finally end it?
I think we did it for 21 years.
Wow.
And I think our actual first Saturday service was sometime in 1981 or 82.
So pretty soon after you got here.
Yes, because Bill Wilson had just been. He was very popular at that time about ministering to kids, and we just and that's the curriculum we used was from Bill Wilson, and so we really got connected to him, and he gave us the vision, and he came, and he actually came one weekend and spent the day with us, and gave us some more pointers to what we could do to even make it better. That's cool, what I loved about it. So
that's cool.
It was great.
So we've talked about youth, we've talked about music, we talked about Super Church and a kids ministry. What all other positions have you done here at the church? We joked about it in the promo about you being in charge of the WMs.
Well, I might not have been in charge of the WMs, but I went to every WM meeting. It's great food.
Taste
there.
tester.
That's
yeah,
exactly. Great food too.
That's funny. So now you're in charge of Trailblazers, which you do a great job with, and all the people that are in Trailblazers love you. But do you have a favorite position that you've been in since you've been here at the church? Is that like choosing a favorite kid?
Yeah, that's like choosing a favorite kid.
Yeah.
I just look back, and I've got great memories of everything that I've done, that the Lord's allowed me to do. I really I struggle with that question because it's all exciting, because I see the results of some people that in youth that now have, that are great workers in the kingdom today. And then I've seen kids that we picked up that are doing great, and wherever they're, and they may not be coming to our church, but I see them, doing good in the community, and I'm proud of them. And I think about, man, I used to pick that kid up,
yeah, that's neat.
Or somebody used to pick that kid up, and so I think it's just a blessing to know that. I think we took advantage of the time, because it was a time and era that the Lord really kept us through that time.
Yeah, it's not something you could do today.
I think it would be very challenging today.
Yeah.
I know churches have them, but I think with the times that we're living in, which is really sad, that I look back and say how the Lord really, really kept us and blessed us through that time.
Absolutely.
you've been, I mean, like we've said, you've been in pretty much every position. And correct me if I'm wrong, but one position that you haven't been is a lead pastor of a church. Is that correct?
Yes.
You've never been. So why have you not chosen to go down that route, or have you ever thought about being a lead pastor?
Well, let me try to answer that question. When I first got into the ministry, and with Maranatha, and really would travel to church, and I knew the challenges that we're facing back then, but now we're facing today. I found a book that while I was here that we did I've done a series of lessons on it. I really think that changed my life, and it's called God's Armor Bearer. And I feel, and it just really connected to me because, you always dreamed of being a lead pastor somewhere. You're probably thinking about the same thing. But the thing that I saw that was needed, I don't want to say that I'm the only one that saw it, but what I saw was needed was armor bearers. Mm-hmm. And the Lord just really told me that I felt through prayer and seeking the Lord. Oh yeah, you always dream about going somewhere and doing ministry, in your own way and all this stuff. But when it got down to business, and I prayed, and the Lord just really, really challenged me just to be an armor bearer. Mm. I want to support the leadership and be like someone to lift up those hands maybe when they get weary. I have had the honor to serve, excuse me.
You're right.
To have served two great men of God.
Yeah.
Brother Johnson took a chance on this Texan, and but I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I saw to be honest, I saw his struggles at times, the pain he was facing because of situations that every pastor goes through. But he also taught me something that ministered to me, just to keep going. Just to keep going. And that's when that armor bearer situation came to me. I want to lift somebody's hand, and say, hey, let's keep fighting. But the Lord has given me an opportunity to serve two great people that I have learned so much from. And I've seen a lot of tough times, but I also know that the Lord has really just told me, you just do what I want you to do.
Yeah.
And this church has been so so good to me. And yes, when Pastor Johnson passed away, I wondered what was going to happen. But the Lord reminded me, you just stay an armor bearer.
Yeah.
And you just stay put.
Yeah.
Because I prayed about that because I knew this was going to be a challenge. But you don't know how many times I've sat in my office and just pray, Lord, you got to get us through this difficult time. But I know you've got somebody that's going to come in here and take it forward, because Brother Johnson had finished his race, and he finished good. But the thing about it is, the Lord blessed us, and I knew that, when a new pastor comes in, that he has the choice and the right, every pastor does, to bring his own people in. And I knew that, thinking that, and I said, but Lord, I just want to be a servant, whatever your will is. And I said, I'm just going to keep serving what you tell me to do. And thank the Lord that the Lord sent us Pastor Britt, because I tell you, I've told him time and time again, and maybe he gets tired of hearing it, but I said, you're the only one that could have come in here and taken this church and taken it to the level it's at today, because God had you ordained for this place. And I knew that. Yeah. And I felt it the very first time I heard him preach. The very first time I said, Lord, I'm praying, okay, this guy's it. I feel it. But I knew that the church had to decide that. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful that they did. Yes. Because he's seen me through some life-changing events since he came. He has been so supportive. And the Lord reminded me, you be an armor bearer. Yeah. And through the through the things that's happened in my life, I'm so thankful that he took a chance on me. Yeah. And I love this church so much.
Well, and this church loves you, and you've done an incredible job of honoring both our pastors. You've done an incredible job of being you're an armor bearer in the flesh. There's no doubt about it. There's Pastor said it a million times of there's not a more loyal person than Gary Grisham, and that is so true even to this day. And you've modeled one thing that I love about you, that I've tried to model my life after you is the encourager that you are. And I think that's part of being an armor bearer, is being an encourager. Even at times when the crowd was low or the service didn't go good, we still hear you saying, what a wonderful crowd it was, and how great service was, and how great Pastor preached. And that's just what you are. You're an encourager. You're somebody that looks for the best in people, that sees the best in people, and everybody needs a person like that in their life, and every pastor needs a support system, an associate pastor like that will pick them up on a Monday when they had a rough night, or somebody got after them after service, or they didn't feel like their sermon really landed where they wanted it to. To have somebody like a Brother Gary come in on a Monday morning and just lift your spirits and give you a hug and tell you that it's going to be okay, that's the kind of person that makes you want to get back in the saddle and do it again and say, all right, it's not the worst it's ever been. And you're an encourager. You're a reminder, I think, a lot of times of why people got in the ministry, or why people continue to get up and put their pants on and live for the Lord each and every single day. So we love you for it.
Yeah, and he's not just, the thing that I think is really awesome is that you're not just that way with your lead pastor, but you're like that with every staff member. There's been times when I've been down, and and I know there's been times when you've been down, and it just takes a little encouragement from you, and it lifts our spirits. And you're not just like that with staff. Every person who walks through those doors on a Sunday, you're the first one to, now with COVID, we probably don't give them a hug, but you were the first one to go, no matter how dirty they looked, no matter what type of clothes they were wearing, right. You were always the first one to go give them a hug, give them a high five. It's great to see you this morning. You look beautiful this morning. And that's something that I want to be that type of guy. I want to be the type of guy that makes everyone feel so good, and to like you said, be an encourager. And so I think it's really I think that's probably the best part, is that you're the same way with every single person. You're not just that way with your boss, but you're like that with the employees that work under you. You know, even with some of these daycare workers that we have now, I mean, you're the same way with them. Yeah. And so I think that's an awesome thing, and that's something that, you know, me and anybody who wants to, you know, to grow up to be like you one day, that's something that they've got to understand, you know, and it's a great quality to have, and I know I'm very thankful for it.
It is. We love you, and I think this is maybe a perfect place to kind of wrap this episode up. It's always a joy just to even have a conversation with you, so we appreciate you sitting down with us, and thank you so much at home for watching. I hope that you were encouraged, hope that you learned something. If you're in the ministry or want to be in the ministry, or you're just a follower of Christ, I think we can all look to Brother Gary as a great example of somebody that we can be like one day. So thanks for being here with us, and we'll catch you in episode number 3.